I still have this small, jagged piece of aluminum tucked away in a cigar box in my top dresser drawer. It's painted a dull, sickly green, and if you look close enough, you can see a hint of a black border. Most folks would look at it and see scrap metal, but when I touch it, I'm back in April of 1945, sitting in a cockpit that smelled like burnt oil and someone else's sweat. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was a grunt, a muddy, tired corporal with a rifle. But there I was, 3,000 feet up, looking through a Reeve gun sight at a sky full of people who wanted me dead. And the worst part was, half of them were wearing the same uniform I had on under my flight jacket. For 80 years, I've kept the full truth of that afternoon quiet, mostly because I didn't think anyone would believe me, and partly because I'm still not sure if I should have survived it. You see, by the time we got deep into Germany, the world had turned into a strange, fractured place. The lines on the maps didn't mean much anymore. We were moving so fast that we'd outrun our own supply lines, and the Germans were folding in some places and fighting like cornered wolves in others. I was with the 2nd Infantry, and we'd been through the meat grinder of the Bulge and the push to the Rhine. We were exhausted. My boots were held together by prayer and stolen wire, and my soul felt about as thin as the soles of those shoes. Before the war back in Ohio, I spent my summers crop dusting. I loved being in the air. I had more hours in a Stearman than I did behind the wheel of a car. But when the Army took me, they didn't care about my wings. They needed bodies to carry M1 Garands, so they put me in the infantry. I didn't complain. You did what you were told back then. It was late afternoon near a little place called Altenburg. Our company had stumbled upon a secondary Luftwaffe airfield that the Krauts had tried to blow up before they left, but they'd been in too much of a hurry. There were hangars partially collapsed and crates of parts scattered everywhere. And there, sitting at the end of a grass strip, was a Messerschmitt Bf 109. It looked like a predatory bird with its wings clipped. It had the yellow nose and the black crosses, and it looked lethal even just sitting there in the weeds. My sergeant, a guy named Miller, who'd lost 2 fingers at St. Lo, told us to clear the perimeter. He didn't want us messing with the planes. He thought they might be booby-trapped, but I couldn't help myself. I walked over to that machine, feeling the heat coming off the tarmac. The canopy was pulled back. I climbed up on the wing, my combat boots scratching the paint. I looked inside the cockpit, and it was a mess of dials and levers, all labeled in German, of course, but a cockpit is a cockpit once you know the language of flight. I saw the stick, the rudder pedals, the throttle. I saw the fuel gauges. It had gas. Why had they left it? Maybe the pilot had run for his life when he heard our Shermans clanking down the road. Maybe he was dead in the woods nearby. I sat down in that seat just to see how it felt. It was cramped, much tighter than the planes I was used to. It felt like putting on a suit of armor that was 2 sizes too small. Suddenly, the world exploded. An 80mm battery we hadn't neutralized yet started opening up from the tree line across the field. My guys started diving for cover. I saw Miller go down, clutching his leg. We were pinned down in the open, and the fire was coming from a position we couldn't reach with our small arms. They were zeroing in on the hangars, and within seconds, the crates of ammunition nearby started cooking off. It was chaos. Screams, the whistle of incoming shells, the smell of cordite. I knew if I stayed on the ground, I was a dead man. And if I stayed in that cockpit, I was a sitting duck. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe it was the adrenaline, or maybe it was just that old urge to get off the dirt and into the sky where things made sense. I reached for the starter. I remembered seeing a captured manual once, and I'd watched these things fly over us enough to have a general idea. I pumped the primer, flipped the magnetos, and hit the switch. That Daimler-Benz engine didn't just start. It roared to life with a violence that shook my teeth. It screamed. A plume of black smoke erupted from the exhaust stacks, and the whole airframe bucked like a wild horse. I didn't have time to think about the fact that I was an American soldier in a German plane. I just knew I needed to move. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I kicked the tail around, the grass flying up behind me. The 88 shells were landing closer now, throwing up geysers of dirt that pelted the fuselage. I jammed the throttle forward. The acceleration was unlike anything I'd ever felt. It wasn't the slow climb of a crop duster. It was a kick in the chest. The trees at the end of the strip were coming at me fast. I pulled back on the stick, and the Messerschmitt leaped into the air. For a second, the world went silent, the roar of the engine settling into a steady, terrifying hum. I was flying. I was really flying. But then reality hit me. I was in a plane with swastikas on the tail, flying over a battlefield where every Allied gun from here to Berlin was trained on anything with those markings. I looked down and saw my own company scattering like ants. I saw the flash of the German 88s in the woods. I made a choice right then. I wasn't going to run. I banked the plane, the horizon tilting sharply. The 109 was incredibly responsive, touched the stick, and it moved. I dived toward the tree line where the muzzle flashes were coming from. I didn't even know how to use the guns properly, but I found the trigger on the stick. The cannons in the nose began to thud, and the wings vibrated as the machine guns spat lead. I saw the German gun crew dive for cover. They didn't expect one of their own to be strafing them. I pulled up hard, the G-force pressing me into the seat, and that's when I saw them. Two P-51 Mustangs, beautiful in silver, coming out of the sun. To them, I was just another kill, another notch on the canopy. They didn't see Henry Lawson from Ohio. They saw the enemy. They dived on me, their wings flashing as they opened fire. Tracers zipped past my cockpit, glowing red and angry. I tried to waggle my wings to show them I wasn't fighting back, but they didn't care. Why would they? I was in a fight for my life against my own people. I had to outmaneuver the best pilots in the world while flying a plane I'd only been in for 3 minutes. I dived low, hugging the contours of the hills, the trees passing just feet below my belly. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it might break. I could hear the thwack of bullets hitting the tail of my plane. One of the Mustangs was right on my 6. I did a split S, something I'd only read about, and for a moment, I saw the pilot's face as I passed him going the other way. He looked stunned. He probably couldn't believe a German pilot was pulling stunts like that so close to the ground. I kept low, headed toward our own lines, hoping I could find a place to put it down before the engine gave out, or a P-51 put a hole in my head. The cockpit was getting hot, and the smell of glycol told me I'd been hit in the cooling system. White smoke started to trail behind me. I looked out and saw the American columns on the road below, trucks, tanks, men, and they all started shooting. Every GI with a Thompson or a bar was taking a crack at me. It was like flying through a hornet's nest. I was screaming at the top of my lungs, "It's me! It's Henry!" But of course, nobody could hear a word over the roar of that Mercedes engine. The engine began to cough. The vibration got worse, a deep, rhythmic shudder that felt like the plane was trying to shake itself apart. I knew I had seconds. I saw a flat pasture just ahead, past a line of hedgerows. I didn't bother with the landing gear. I knew it would just dig in and flip me. I cut the engine, the sudden quiet more terrifying than the noise. I held the stick back, trying to bleed off speed, feeling the air move over the control surfaces one last time. The belly of the Messerschmitt hit the dirt with a sound like 1,000 tin cans being crushed at once. I was thrown forward, my harness cutting into my shoulders. The plane skidded across the grass, tearing through a wooden fence, sending splinters flying everywhere. Dirt and rocks pelted the underside. Finally, it came to a stop in a cloud of dust and steam. I sat there for a second, stunned, my head ringing. Then I remembered where I was. I scrambled out of the cockpit, falling off the wing and hitting the ground hard. I didn't even have my rifle. I just had my 1911 pistol and my American uniform, which was mostly covered by a leather Luftwaffe flight jacket I'd grabbed from the seat. I heard the sound of shouting and the unmistakable clank of a jeep. I tore off that flight jacket and threw it as far as I could. I stood up, raising my hands, covered in oil and dirt and sweat. A squad of GIs from the 9th Armored came bursting through the hedge, their rifles leveled at my chest. They looked at the crashed Messerschmitt, then they looked at me. One of them, a young kid who looked like he hadn't shaved in a month, shouted, "Don't move, you Kraut son of a bitch!" I just stood there shaking. "I'm American," I yelled. "I'm with the 2nd Infantry. Don't shoot." They didn't lower their guns. They walked up to me, wary, like I was a ghost or a trick. The sergeant, a big man with a sour face, looked at my dog tags. He looked at the plane. He looked back at me. "You're telling me you flew this thing?" he asked, his voice full of disbelief. I nodded, unable to speak. He looked at the smoking wreck, then at the sky where the P-51s were still circling, probably wondering where their kill went. He spat a stream of tobacco juice onto the grass. "Well," he said, "that's either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen, and I haven't decided which one it is yet." They took me in, of course. For the next 3 days, I was questioned by everyone from intelligence officers to board colonels. They wanted to know if I was a defector, if I'd been trained by the Germans, or if I was just some kind of lunatic. I told them the truth over and over. I told them about Miller and the 88s. I told them about the crop dusting in Ohio. Eventually, they realized I was just a kid who didn't want to die in a ditch and had the crazy idea that he could fly his way out of it. They sent me back to my unit with a stern warning never to touch a piece of enemy equipment again. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. When I got back to the 2nd, Miller was in the field hospital. He'd survived, though he'd never walked the same. He looked at me from his cot and just shook his head. "Lawson," he whispered, "I heard you took a trip." I didn't say much. What was there to say? I'd spent 15 minutes in the skin of the enemy, and I'd never felt more alone in my entire life. I sometimes wonder about the German pilots who might have seen me. I wonder what they thought, seeing one of their own planes attacking their own guns and then being chased by Mustangs. To them, it must have looked like a betrayal. To my own side, it looked like a target. That's the thing about war. It strips away who you are and replaces it with a silhouette. For those few minutes, I wasn't Henry Lawson. I was just a shape in the sky, a ghost in a machine, caught between two worlds that both wanted to tear me down. I kept that piece of the wing, the one I found near the crash site before they hauled the wreck away. I kept it because it reminds me that the line between us and them is sometimes as thin as a layer of paint. I'm 92 now, and my flying days are long gone. My eyes aren't sharp enough for the horizon anymore, and my hands shake too much for the stick. But sometimes, when I close them, I can still feel the vibration of that Daimler-Benz engine through my boots. I can still smell the hot oil. And I remember the feeling of the wind and the terrifying beauty of being a man who, for just a moment, belonged to neither side, but only to the air itself. It's funny how time works. People talk about the glory of the air war, the dogfights and the aces. But to me, that flight was the loneliest I've ever been. It wasn't about winning. It was about surviving a world that had gone mad. I think about that Messerschmitt often. It was a beautiful machine, built for a terrible purpose. And in a way, we were all like that back then. We were all being used for things we weren't meant for. I was a farmer meant to grow corn, but I was carrying a rifle. That plane was meant to defend a country, but it was being flown by its enemy. Everything was upside down. I didn't get a medal for what I did. In fact, they made sure there was no official record of it. They didn't want the paperwork headache of an infantryman stealing a Luftwaffe fighter. It just became one of those stories told over beers in the barracks. Did you hear about Lawson? Tale that eventually faded away as the men who were there died off or moved on. But I didn't need a medal. I had my life. I had the memory of the way the sun looked on the silver wings of those Mustangs before they tried to kill me. And I had the knowledge that when the chips were down, I could still fly. I often think about the gunners on that 88 crew. I wonder if any of them survived the war. I wonder if they ever told their grandkids about the day a 109 came out of the sun and tried to kill them. They probably thought the pilot had lost his mind. In a way, I had. You have to lose your mind a little bit to do something like that. You have to stop caring about the consequences and just focus on the next breath, the next turn, the next second of staying alive. That's what the war taught me, that the human spirit is a lot more flexible than we give it credit for. We can endure things we never thought possible, and we can do things we never dreamed we'd do. I don't hate the Germans anymore. It took a long time, but that anger eventually burns out. When you get to be my age, you realize that most of those boys in the other uniforms were just as scared and confused as I was. They were just sitting in different cockpits, following different orders. We were all caught in the same storm. I think that's why I finally decided to tell this. Not to show off, but to remind people that even in the middle of all that hate and destruction, there are these strange human moments that don't fit into the history books. Moments where a boy from Ohio can find himself flying a German bird, just trying to find a piece of ground where no one is shooting. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I remember the silence after I landed. After the screaming of the engine and the tearing of the metal, there was this moment in that pasture where it was just me and the wind in the grass. I looked at my hands and they were covered in black grease. I looked at the sky and it was so blue it hurt. I realized then that I didn't want to be a hero. I didn't want to be a pilot or a soldier. I just wanted to go home and see the dirt of my own farm. I wanted to smell the earth after a rain. not the smell of burning glycol. The war ended a few weeks later. I was in a small town near Munich when the news came. There wasn't a big celebration for us, not like you see in the movies. We just sat on the curb and smoked. Someone had a bottle of schnapps and we passed it around. We were too tired to cheer. We just felt this immense weight lift off our shoulders, replaced by a strange kind of emptiness. We'd spent years focusing on staying alive, and suddenly we had to figure out how to live. It's not the same thing. I came back to Ohio and I never flew again, not once. People asked me why, since I'd loved it so much before the war. I told them I'd had enough of the air. The truth was, I didn't want to be in the sky without a reason anymore. I'd seen what it looked like from up there when the world was on fire, and I preferred the view from the ground. I got married to a girl named Martha, who didn't mind that I woke up screaming sometimes. We had 3 kids, and I spent my days working the soil, the same soil my father had worked. It was a quiet life, a good life. But every now and then, usually when a storm is rolling in and the air gets that heavy, electric feeling, I'll find myself looking up. I'll see a hawk circling high above, and for a split second, I'll feel that phantom itch in my right hand. I'll feel the weight of the stick and the vibration of the floorboards. I'll remember the way the world looked through that Revy gun sight, and the sheer terrifying thrill of being somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. I think that's why I've lived so long. Maybe the big guy upstairs wanted to make sure I had enough time to process it all. Or maybe he just enjoys a good story and was waiting for me to finally tell it. At 92, you don't worry much about what people think of you. You just want to make sure the truth is told before it goes into the ground with you. And the truth is, I was an American soldier who flew a German fighter. I was a target for everyone, and I belonged to no one. And somehow, by the grace of God and a little bit of Ohio luck, I'm still here to talk about it. It's a strange thing, carrying a secret like that for so long. It becomes a part of you, like a scar that doesn't hurt anymore, but you still feel when the weather changes. I look at the world now, and it's so different. Everything is fast and loud and connected. People don't understand the isolation we felt back then. They don't understand how easy it was to disappear into the smoke of a battle and come out someone else. I'm glad they don't have to understand it. I hope they never do. I'm the last one left from my squad. Miller passed away in the 80s, and the others followed one by one. I'm the keeper of the ghosts now. When I speak, I'm not just speaking for Henry Lawson. I'm speaking for the boys who didn't get to come home and grow old. I'm speaking for the ones who did come home, but left a piece of themselves in the mud of France or the forests of Germany. We all carried something back with us. Some carried medals, some carried wounds, and some, like me, carried memories that didn't have a place in the world we returned to. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I sometimes wonder what happened to that piece of the wing if I hadn't taken it. Would it have been melted down and turned into a toaster? Or a part of a car? It's strange to think that something that was part of such a terrifying moment could end up being something so mundane. But that's what life is, isn't it? We take the jagged pieces of our past and we try to build something useful out of them. We try to find a way to make the trauma mean something. I remember the interrogator, a captain with glasses that kept sliding down his nose. He'd asked me, "Corporal, what was going through your head when you pushed that throttle?" I'd told him I wasn't thinking, but later, thinking back on it, I realized I was thinking one thing. I was thinking that I wasn't going to die on their terms. If I was going to go, I was going to go on my own. I was going to be the master of my own fate, even if it was only for a few miles of sky. There's a certain power in that. In the middle of a war where you're just a number, taking control of a machine like that is a way of saying you still exist. I don't know if I'd do it again, probably not. I'm older and hopefully a bit wiser now. I know the odds were 1,000,000 to 1, but the 19-year-old me, the one with the grease under his fingernails and the fear in his gut, he didn't care about odds. He just cared about the next minute, and I suppose I owe that boy everything. I owe him my life, my family, and all these years I've had since. He was a brave kid, even if he was a bit of a fool. I'm sitting here on my porch now, watching the sun go down over the fields. It's peaceful. The birds are singing, and the air is still. It's hard to believe that 80 years ago, I was screaming through a sky full of lead in a plane that wasn't mine. It feels like a dream sometimes. But then I go inside, and I open that cigar box, and I touch that piece of green aluminum. And I know it was real. I know it happened. And I know that for one brief, shining, terrifying moment, I was the most surprised man in the European theater of operations. I hope that whoever is hearing this understands that history isn't just dates and maps, it's people. It's scared kids making impossible choices. It's the smell of the air and the weight of the metal. It's the things we don't tell because we're afraid of being laughed at or called a liar. But the truth has a way of needing to be told. It's like a seed that's been sitting in the dark for a long time. Eventually, it's got to find the light. I think about the Mustang pilots too. I wonder if they ever sat around a bar and talked about the Kraut who flew like a maniac and then just disappeared into a pasture. I wonder if they ever felt bad about shooting at me, or if I was just another line in a mission report. I don't hold it against them. They were doing their job. We were all doing our jobs. It just so happened that my job that day was to be the most confusing thing in the air. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. It's getting late now, and the chill is starting to get into my bones. That's the thing about being 92. The cold finds you a lot faster than it used to, but I'm glad I shared this. It feels like I've set something down that I've been carrying for a long time. A heavy pack I can finally take off. I've had a good run. I've seen the world change in ways I never could have imagined. I've seen men walk on the moon, and I've seen the rise of things called computers. But nothing will ever compare to the feeling of that Bf 109 lifting off the grass at Altenburg. Nothing will ever be as raw as that. I've lived a quiet life, but for those 15 minutes, I lived 1,000 years. I suppose that's all there is to say about it. It's not a story with a great moral or a lesson other than maybe this. Don't ever count a man out, even if he's stuck in a ditch. You never know what he's capable of when he's got nothing left to lose. And you never know where he might end up if he finds a way to fly. I'm going to go inside now. Martha will be wondering where I am. She always says I spend too much time out here talking to the trees. But sometimes the trees are the only ones who really listen. Thank you for listening. It means more than you know. To have these memories live on in someone else's mind, that's the only kind of immortality a man like me can hope for. I remember the way the clouds looked that day. They were high and wispy, like someone had taken a brush and dragged it across the blue. I remember thinking that if I died, at least I'd be closer to heaven than I was in the mud. That's a comfort you don't find much on the ground. Up there, the world looks small. The wars look small. The hate looks small. It's just you and the infinite. Maybe that's what I was really looking for when I climbed into that cockpit. Maybe I wasn't just trying to escape the 88s. Maybe I was trying to escape everything. But you can't escape forever. Eventually, you have to come back down. You have to face the music, and the men with the rifles, and the questions. You have to find a way to be a person again. And that, I think, was the hardest part of the whole war. Not the flying, not the shooting, but the coming back. The trying to fit a soul that had seen the infinite back into a body that had to work a farm and pay taxes. It's a tight fit, let me tell you. But I managed. We all did. Those of us who made it. We built a world out of the rubble. And we tried to make it a place where our children wouldn't have to steal planes just to stay alive. I hope we did a good job. I look at my grandkids and I see their eyes. And I hope they never have to see what I saw. I hope they only ever see the sky from the window of a passenger jet with a drink in their hand and a movie playing. I hope the air remains a place of peace for them. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I can hear the crickets starting up now. It's a good sound, a peaceful sound. It's the sound of a world that's moved on. And that's exactly how it should be. The past is a shadow, and the present is the only thing that's real. But every now and then, it's good to look into the shadow and remember who we were. I remember the smell of that Luftwaffe jacket. It smelled of tobacco and a cologne that was unfamiliar to me. It reminded me that the man who owned it before me had a life too. He had someone who loved him, someone who was probably waiting for him to come home. I wonder if he ever did. I hope he did. I hope we all found our way home, one way or another. That's the thing about being an old soldier. You stop seeing the enemy as a monster, and you start seeing him as a mirror. You realize that you were both just kids, caught in a gear that was much bigger than both of you. And you realize that the only real victory is making it to the end of the day. I'm going to head in now. My legs are starting to ache, and that's a sign that I've stayed out here long enough. But I'll be back tomorrow, sitting in this same chair, looking at the same fields. And I'll still be Henry Lawson, the man who flew a Messerschmitt. Whether anyone knows it or not, I'll know it. And that's enough for me. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I'd stayed in the air. If I just kept flying east until I ran out of gas. Where would I have ended up? But I knew even then that there was nowhere else to go. You can't fly away from a war. You can only fly through it. And I'm glad I flew through it and came out the other side. It was a long journey, and it's one I'm finally ready to finish. Goodbye for now. Take care of yourselves. And remember, the sky is a lot bigger than it looks from down here. Don't forget to look up every once in a while. You might just see something you weren't expecting. And if you do, don't be afraid. Just keep your hand on the stick and your eyes on the horizon. You'll make it through. We all do, eventually. I can still see the faces of those boys from the 9th Armored, the sheer shock on their features when they realized I was one of them. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated human connection in the middle of a wasteland. We didn't need to speak the same language or have the same rank. We just needed to know that we were on the same side of the living. That's a powerful thing. I remember the silence of the hospital later that week. It was a different kind of silence than the pasture. It was heavy with the smell of antiseptic and the low moans of men in pain. It made me realize how lucky I really was. I had a few scratches and a ringing in my ears, but I was whole. I had all my fingers and toes. I had my mind. Not everyone was so lucky. I never forgot that. Every day since then has been a gift, even the hard ones. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I think about the courage it took for that sergeant to not pull the trigger. He could have easily just finished me off and claimed he thought I was a German trying to escape. No one would have questioned him, but he looked. He took the time to see me. In a war, that's an act of incredible mercy, to see the human being instead of the target. I hope I've lived a life that was worthy of that mercy. I'm tired now, truly tired. The kind of tired that comes from 92 years of living and a lifetime of remembering. But it's a good tired, the kind you get after a long day's work in the sun. I'm ready for the rest. I'm ready for the quiet. But I'm glad I stayed awake long enough to tell you this. I'm glad you were here to listen. There's a photo of me from 1944, taken just before we crossed into Germany. I'm standing by a muddy Jeep and I'm smiling. I look so young. I look like I don't have a care in the world, even though I was surrounded by death. I look at that boy and I want to tell him it's going to be okay. I want to tell him he's going to do something crazy and he's going to survive it. I want to tell him he's going to have a long life and a family that loves him, but I can't. He has to find it out for himself, just like we all do. I suppose that's the final lesson. Life is a series of moments, some of them terrifying and some of them beautiful, and most of them somewhere in between. And you have to embrace them all. You have to take the flight, even if you're not sure where you're going to land. Because the alternative is just staying in the ditch. And that's no way for a man to live. I'm going to close my eyes now for a bit. The sun is almost gone and the shadows are long. But in my mind, the sky is still bright and the engine is still roaring. And I'm still 20 years old, flying toward a horizon that never ends. And for a moment, I'm not a veteran or an old man or a farmer. I'm just a pilot and I'm free. The roar of that Daimler-Benz, it was different from our engines. Our engines had a rhythm, a steady beat like a heart. The German engines, they had a snarl. It was like they were angry at the world. Maybe they were. Maybe the machines we build carry the spirit of the people who build them. But even in that snarl, there was a kind of music, a terrifying, beautiful music that only someone who's been in the air can truly understand. I can still hear it if I listen close enough. I remember the way the metal felt beneath my hands. It was cold, even in the sun. It felt solid, but I knew how fragile it really was. One well-placed bullet, and it would all come apart. We were all like that, feeling solid and strong, but just a heartbeat away from being gone. It's a strange way to live, but it makes you appreciate the heartbeat you have right now. It makes you realize that every breath is a victory. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I'm glad I never had to shoot anyone from that plane. I'm glad my only targets were the guns that were killing my friends. I don't think I could have lived with it if I'd killed a pilot. It would have been like killing a part of myself. We were a brotherhood, even across the lines. We were the only ones who knew what it was like to be up there. I'm moving a little slower today, but that's all right. I've got nowhere to be. I've done everything I needed to do. I've seen the world, I've raised my family, and I've told my story. There's a peace in that, a peace that's hard to find when you're young and always looking for the next thing. I found it, and I'm holding on to it. I look at the flag flying on my neighbor's porch, and I feel a swell of pride. Not the kind of pride that's loud and boastful, but a quiet kind. The kind that knows the cost of that flag. I know what it took to keep it flying. I saw it in the eyes of the men I served with, and I saw it in the wreckage of that Messerschmitt. It's a heavy thing, that flag, but it's a beautiful thing too. I hope you'll remember this story when you see an old man sitting on a porch. Don't just see the wrinkles and the gray hair. See the history. See the stories that are hidden behind those eyes. We all have them. We all have our Messerschmitt moments, and they're what make us who we are. They're the threads that weave the fabric of our lives. I'm going to go in now. The lights are coming on in the house and I can smell dinner. It's a good life, a quiet life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Not even for another 15 minutes in the sky. Well, maybe for just 5 minutes. But only if the sun was out and no one was shooting. That would be something, wouldn't it? Just me in the air and the quiet. That would be something. I remember the way the grass felt when I finally stepped out of that plane. It was so soft. After the vibration and the noise, the earth felt like a pillow. I wanted to just lie down and never get up. I wanted to just disappear into the soil, but I didn't. I stood up, I raised my hands, I chose to keep living, and I've been choosing it every day since. Thank you again for being here, for listening, for caring. It means the world to an old man who's just trying to make sense of a life that started a long time ago in a place that doesn't exist anymore. The world has changed, but the heart hasn't. It still fears, it still loves, and it still remembers. And as long as it does, we'll never truly be gone. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. Good night, and God bless. I'll see you in the morning if the good Lord is willing and the creek don't rise. And if he isn't, well, I've had a hell of a ride, and I'm okay with that. I'm more than okay with that. I remember the interrogator asked me one last question before they let me go. He asked, "Did you feel like a hero up there?" And I told him the truth. I told him I just felt like a man who wanted to see his mother again. That's all any of us were, just boys who wanted to go home. And in the end, that's the only thing that really matters, getting home, wherever that may be. I think about the piece of aluminum in my drawer one last time. It's just metal, but it's also a bridge to a time when I was young and the world was on fire and I did something that people still don't believe. It's my proof, not to anyone else, but to me. Proof that I was there, proof that I survived, proof that I flew, and that's all I need. The stars are coming out now. They look the same as they did over Germany in 1945. They don't care about our wars or our borders, they just shine, and I like that. It's a reminder that there's something bigger than all of this, something steady, something eternal, and maybe, just maybe, that's where we all end up, in the light. Take care of each other. Life is short, even when it's 92 years long. It goes by in the blink of an eye, so make the most of it. Take the risks, fly the planes, and never ever give up on finding your way home. It's been an honor sharing this with you, truly. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. Goodbye, friends. It's time for me to go now, but I'll be around, in the stories, in the memories, and in the quiet moments when you look up at the sky and wonder what's possible. Anything is possible. Don't ever forget that. I can still feel the sun on my face from that afternoon. It was a warm sun, the kind that promises spring is coming. And even in the middle of all that death, that sun felt like a promise. A promise that life would go on. And it did. It always does. No matter how much we try to destroy it, life finds a way. Just like a boy from Ohio found a way into the sky. I'm closing the box now. The piece of metal is back in its place. The memories are tucked away, safe for another day. I'm going to bed. It's been a long day, and an even longer life. But I wouldn't change a second of it. Not even the parts that hurt. Because they're all part of the story. And it's a story I'm proud to tell. Thank you. Thank you for everything. I hope you found something in this that helps you. Something that makes you feel a little less alone or a little more brave. That's why we tell stories, after all. To help each other through the dark. And if I've done that, then I've done my job. Good night. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I'll keep these memories safe as long as I can, but I'm glad some of them are with you now. It's a good feeling, knowing you're not the only one who knows. It's a shared burden and a shared joy. And that's the best kind of all. I can still hear the wind. It's whispering through the eaves of the house. It sounds like the air over the wings. It sounds like freedom. And that's a beautiful thing, a truly beautiful thing. I'm going to sleep now. I'm going to dream of the sky. A sky without planes, without smoke, without fire. Just a blue, endless sky. And I'll be flying. I remember the taste of the water after I landed. It was from a canteen one of the GIs handed me. It was warm and tasted like metal, but it was the best thing I'd ever tasted. It was the taste of being alive. I drank it all in one go, the water running down my chin and onto my dirty uniform. I didn't care. I was here. I was breathing. The world was still turning. That's what I want you to remember. When things are hard and you feel like you're crashing, just remember that there's always a drink of water waiting for you on the ground. There's always a reason to keep going. Just hold on. Just keep your head up. You'll get there, I promise. I'm really going now. The pen is down, the voice is quiet. But the story is yours now. Do with it what you will. Just don't forget it. Don't forget the boy in the Messerschmitt. He's a part of you now too. And I think he'd like that. He'd like that a lot. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. God bless America, and God bless every soul who's ever looked at the sky and dared to dream of more than the mud beneath their feet. We're all in this together, every one of us. I remember how the light changed as I got lower. The shadows of the trees got longer, stretching out like fingers trying to catch me. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once, like a painting that was coming to life and trying to swallow me whole, but I didn't let it. I kept my eyes on the field. I kept my hands on the controls. I stayed in command until the very end. And that's what I've tried to do with the rest of my life. Stay in command, not of others, but of myself. It's the only thing you can really control in this world. Your own heart, your own choices, your own story. Everything else is just wind. And I've seen enough wind to know it doesn't stay in one place for long. I'm finished, truly finished. I've said it all. The secret is out, and it feels good. It feels like the first breath of air after you've been underwater for too long, clear and sweet and cold. I'm going to enjoy this feeling for as long as I can. And then I'm going to let go. Goodbye, my friends. It's been a pleasure, a real, true pleasure. I hope our paths cross again, maybe in a place where the air is always clear and the sun never sets. Until then, keep flying, keep dreaming, and keep remembering. It's the most important thing we can do. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I've told the truth as best as I can remember it, and that's all a man can do. The details might be a little fuzzy around the edges, but the heart of it is as sharp as a bayonet. And that's what matters. I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever comes next. Whether it's another day on the porch or a trip to the great unknown, I've had my adventure and I've had my peace. And I'm grateful for both. So very grateful. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for listening to an old man's tale. It's meant more to me than words can say. I'll see you in the stars. The day I landed that plane, I realized that the world is a lot smaller than we think. We're all just living on a tiny rock, spinning through the dark, and we spend so much time fighting over pieces of dirt. But from 3,000 feet up, there are no borders. There are no lines. There's just the earth and the water and the life that covers it all. If we could all just see that, maybe we wouldn't need so many planes in the first place. I think about the man who built that engine. Did he know it would be used by a boy from Ohio? Did he know it would be part of a story that would be told 80 years later? Probably not. We never know the impact of what we do. We just do our work and hope for the best. And sometimes, the best is just a story that survives the fire. I'm resting my head back now. The chair is comfortable, and the night is quiet. I can feel the weight of my years, but it's not a heavy weight. It's a solid weight, like the weight of a life well lived. I'm content, and that's a rare thing in this world. I hope you find it too. I hope we all find it. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. And with that, I'll say my final goodbye. It's been a long road, but it's been a good one. I wouldn't change a thing, not a single thing. God bless. I remember the sound of the Jeep tires on the gravel as they drove me away from the wreck. It was a crunching sound, steady and rhythmic. It felt like the sound of reality coming back. The dream was over and the war was back. But for those few minutes, I'd stepped outside of it. I'd seen the world from a different angle, and I was never the same again. I'm glad for that. I'm glad I saw what I saw. It's funny, I never liked the taste of beer much before the war. But that night, in the barracks, someone handed me a warm can, and it was the best thing I'd ever had. It was the taste of brotherhood, the taste of being part of something. I think that's what we were all looking for, really. A place to belong, and I found it in the most unlikely of places. In the cockpit of an enemy plane, and in the company of the men who tried to shoot me down. Life is a strange, beautiful, terrible thing, and I'm glad I got to live it. I'm glad I got to be Henry Lawson, and I'm glad I got to share a little bit of it with you. Good night, my friends. Good night. The silence is nice. It's the kind of silence that feels full, not empty. It's full of the memories of all the things I've seen and done. It's full of the voices of the people I've loved. It's a good silence, and I'm happy to be a part of it. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I've reached the end of my story, but it's not the end of the memories. They'll stay with me, and now they'll stay with you. And that's exactly how it should be. Take care. I remember the way my hands shook for hours after I landed. I couldn't hold a cigarette, couldn't even hold a spoon. It wasn't just the adrenaline, it was the realization of what I'd actually done, the sheer impossibility of it. It's a wonder I didn't just collapse right there. But the human body is a resilient thing. It keeps going even when the mind is ready to quit. I'm glad mine did. I'm glad it kept me standing long enough to see the end of the day. I look at my hands now, and they still shake a little. But it's not from fear anymore. It's just from the years. They've done a lot of work, these hands. They've held a rifle. They've held a stick. They've held a plow. And they've held the hands of the people I love. They've had a full life. And that's more than a man can ask for. I'm finished now. The story is told. The secret is shared. And I feel light. So very light. Like I could just float away into the night sky. And maybe I will. Maybe I will. Goodbye. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I've said all I have to say. The rest is just silence. And that's okay. Silence is a good thing sometimes. It gives you space to think, to remember, to just be. I'm being told that I've reached the end of my time here today. That's all right. I've said what I needed to. I hope it made a difference. I hope it stays with you. And I hope that wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you find your own way to fly. Because we all have a Messerschmitt waiting for us somewhere. We just have to be brave enough to get in. Good night, everyone, and thank you. From the bottom of an old soldier's heart, thank you. I remember one last thing. As the P-51s were circling, right before I hit the ground, I saw the pilot of the lead plane tip his wing. It was a small gesture, almost imperceptible, but I saw it. I think just for a second he knew. He knew he wasn't looking at a German pilot. He was looking at a crazy soul who was just trying to survive. And he gave me that one last salute. I never forgot that. It was a moment of grace in a world of fire. And it's what I'll take with me when I go. I'm truly done now. The light is fading, and it's time to go inside. Goodbye. I think the reason I'm telling this now, after all these years of keeping it locked away in that cigar box, is because I realized that if I don't, that piece of aluminum will just be scrap metal when I'm gone. My kids will find it, wonder what it was, and probably toss it in the bin. They won't know it was part of a wing that carried me through a miracle and a nightmare all at once. You see, I skipped over the most terrifying part of that flight. It wasn't just the takeoff or the 88s on the ground. It was the moment I realized that I was completely alone in the world. When you're in the infantry, you have your buddies. You have Miller on your left and Jackson on your right. You're part of a machine. But in that cockpit, 3,000 feet up, the world was just sky and death, and I didn't belong to either. I remember looking at the rudder pedals. They were worn down, the metal polished bright by the boots of whatever German pilot had owned that plane before me. I wondered if he was my age. I wondered if he liked the way the air felt on his face when he wasn't being shot at. The labels on the gauges, Höhenmesser, Fahrtmesser, they were all gibberish to me, but the needles didn't lie. I saw the fuel pressure dropping and the temperature climbing. That Daimler-Benz engine was a masterpiece of engineering, but it was being pushed to its limit by a boy who barely knew how to trim the elevators. Every time I moved the stick, the plane reacted with a sharpness that was violent. It wasn't like the old Stearmans back home that felt like they were made of wood and canvas. This felt like I was riding a lightning bolt. When those two Mustangs first dived on me, the sound was something I can still hear in my sleep. It wasn't just the engine roar. It was the whistle of the air over their wings and the rhythmic thud, thud, thud of their .50 caliber machine guns. I saw the tracers passing so close to my canopy that I could feel the heat. Red streaks in a blue sky. I remember the smell of the cockpit changing. It went from that stale, mechanical smell to the sharp metallic tang of ozone and spent shells. I knew I had to do something, or I was going to be a smoking hole in a German field before I could even say my own name. I dived. I pushed the nose down until the horizon disappeared, and all I could see was the green and brown patchwork of the German countryside rushing up to meet me. The wind noise became a scream. I felt the 109 start to buffet, the whole airframe shaking as if it were about to shed its wings. I was pulling so many G's that my vision started to tunnel, turning the world into a narrow, blurry tube. I caught a glimpse of one of the Mustangs in my rearview mirror. Yes, the Krauts had mirrors too. And he was right there, a silver predator that wouldn't let go. He was determined. He thought he was doing his duty. He thought he was killing a Nazi. I pulled back on the stick with everything I had. My muscles screamed, and I felt a pop in my shoulder that still aches when it rains. The 109's nose swung up, and for a second I was looking straight at the sun. I did a barrel roll, something I'd seen the airshow pilots do back in Ohio, and for a heartbeat, I was inverted. I saw the Mustang pass underneath me, his silver wings flashing in the light. I saw the invasion stripes on his belly, those black and white bands that were supposed to tell us who was friendly. I wanted to reach out and touch them. I wanted to tell him, "Hey, I'm on your side." But I was a black cross in his gun sight. I leveled out just above the tree line. I was so low that I could see the individual leaves on the oaks and the way the wind from my prop wash was bending the grass. I was flying through a valley, the hills on either side acting as a shield. I knew the Mustangs couldn't dive on me without risking a crash. I was using the terrain like a fox running from the hounds. My heart was beating so fast it felt like a trapped bird in my chest. I remember thinking about my mother. I wondered if she was sitting on the porch back home, having a glass of lemonade, having no idea that her son was currently the most hunted man in Germany. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I saw a line of German trucks on a road ahead. They were retreating, a column of dusty Opels and horse-drawn wagons. They saw the 109 coming and started cheering. I could see them waving their caps, thinking their Air Force had finally come to save them. It turned my stomach. I was their hero for a second, and I hated it. I didn't want their cheers. I didn't want their war. I just wanted to be Henry again. I kept the gun silent as I roared over them, leaving them in a cloud of dust and confusion. The smoke from my engine was getting thicker now. A white, wispy trail of glycol was beginning to obscure my view to the rear. It looked like a white finger pointing straight at me, telling the whole world where I was. I knew the engine wouldn't last much longer. The temperature gauge was pinned in the red, and the smell of scorching metal was becoming overpowering. I had to find a place to put it down, and I had to do it soon. But every time I looked for a clear field, I saw the flash of gunfire from the ground. Everyone was shooting at me. The Germans thought I was a traitor because I wasn't helping them, and the Americans thought I was the enemy. I remember thinking about the concept of home. When you're in a war, home isn't a place on a map anymore. It's a feeling. It's the feeling of being safe, of being known. In that cockpit, I was unknown. I was a ghost. I realized that if I died right then, nobody would ever know what happened. I'd just be another missing in action report, another telegram delivered to a grieving mother. "We regret to inform you." They wouldn't mention the Messerschmitt. They wouldn't mention the dogfight. They'd just say I was lost in the line of duty. That thought terrified me more than the bullets. I didn't want to disappear. I saw a large flat pasture near a small village. It looked clear of troops, but in 1945, you never knew who was hiding in the barns. I began my approach, cutting the throttle and feeling the 109 settle into a heavy, ungraceful glide. The engine was coughing now, a rhythmic thwack-thwack that sounded like a dying heart. I reached for the gear lever, then stopped. I remembered what the old-timers said. If you're going down in the dirt, keep the wheels up. It's better to slide than to flip. I braced my feet against the rudder pedals and pulled the harness as tight as I could, the straps digging into my collarbones. The ground was coming up fast. I could see the individual stones in a stone wall. I could see a cow standing at the edge of the field, looking at me with bored indifference. I flared the nose at the last second, trying to bleed off every bit of airspeed I could. The belly of the plane touched the grass, and for a moment, it was smooth. Then the tail hit, and the world became a blur of noise and violence. The 109 began to tear itself apart. I heard the propeller snap as it hit the dirt, the blades flying off like shrapnel. I heard the sound of the aluminum skin being shredded. When it finally stopped, the silence was deafening. It was a heavy, thick silence that felt like it was pressing down on my eardrums. I sat there for a long time, just breathing. I could hear the tink, tink, tink of the hot metal cooling and the hiss of the leaking glycol. I looked at my hands. They were white, the knuckles standing out like stones. I had survived. I was alive on German soil, in a German plane, but I was alive. I unbuckled the harness, my fingers fumbling with the release, and dragged myself out of the cockpit. I fell onto the grass and just lay there for a minute, smelling the earth. It smelled like damp soil and crushed clover. It was the most beautiful smell I'd ever encountered. I felt like I was back in Ohio, lying under the big oak tree in the backyard. But then I heard the shouting. I heard the sound of boots on gravel. I remembered the war. I remembered that I was wearing the wrong jacket and sitting next to the wrong plane. I scrambled to my feet, my head spinning, and that's when I saw the GIs coming through the hedge. They didn't look like heroes. They looked like tired, angry men who had seen too much. Their faces were caked with dust, and their eyes were hollow. When they saw me, they didn't see a friend. They saw a pilot in a leather jacket standing next to a crashed Messerschmitt. One of them leveled his M1 at my chest, his finger on the trigger. I could see the tension in his arms. I knew that one wrong move, one sneeze, one stumble, and it would all be over. I raised my hands, feeling the oil and sweat running down my arms. "Don't shoot!" I yelled. My voice sounded thin and cracked, like I'd been screaming for days. "I'm American, 2nd Infantry. Name's Lawson, Henry Lawson." The soldier didn't lower his rifle. He looked at me with a mixture of suspicion and hatred. "Yeah, and I'm the King of England," he spat. He stepped closer, the muzzle of the rifle inches from my heart. I could see the rifling inside the barrel. I could see the grimminess of his fingernails. "Turn around," he ordered. Slow. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I did as I was told. I felt him kick my legs apart and search me, his hands rough and efficient. He found my 1911 and pulled it from its holster. He looked at the serial number, then at the American markings. He hesitated. I heard another voice, a sergeant, I assumed, walking up behind him. "What you got, Miller?" the voice asked. I stiffened. "Miller? Was it my Miller?" But it was a common name. "Found a pilot, Sarge. Says he's one of ours. Claims he's 2nd Infantry." I heard the sergeant grunt. He walked around to the front of me and looked me in the eye. He was an older man, maybe 30, with a face like a road map of every battle he'd ever been in. He looked at my dog tags, pulling them out from under my shirt with a jerk. He read them out loud, his voice flat. "Lawson, Henry, P, blood type O, Protestant." He looked at the plane, then back at me. "How the hell did you end up in that thing, Lawson?" I told him. I told him about the 88s, the airfield, the panic, and the flight. I told him about the Mustangs and the strafing run on the gun crew. He listened without saying a word, his face unreadable. When I finished, he just looked at the smoking wreck of the 109. He took a cigarette out of a crumpled pack, lit it with a Zippo, and blew a long cloud of smoke into the afternoon air. "You're either the luckiest man in this man's army," he said, "or the craziest. Either way, you're coming with us." The next few days were a blur of cold rooms and hard chairs. I was moved from one command post to another, always under guard. I felt like a criminal. They didn't hit me, but they didn't trust me either. They asked me the same questions over and over. "Who gave you the orders? Where did you learn to fly a German plane? What was the mission?" I told them there was no mission. There were no orders. There was just a kid who didn't want to die. I don't think they believed me at first. To them, the world was orderly. You did what you were told. You didn't just hop into a fighter and take off. I remember one major, a guy with a mustache that looked like it had been trimmed with a ruler, who sat across from me for 4 hours. He was intelligence. He had a map spread out on the table, and he wanted me to point out exactly where I'd taken off and where I'd crashed. He wanted to know the tail number of the plane. I told him I didn't know. I didn't care about numbers. I cared about the ground. He looked at me with this look of pure annoyance, like I was a puzzle piece that wouldn't fit. "Do you realize," he said, leaning forward until I could smell the peppermint on his breath, "that you were nearly shot down by our own aircraft? Do you realize the paperwork this is going to cause?" I almost laughed. Paperwork. I'd been through a dogfight with Mustangs and crashed a Messerschmitt into a field, and he was worried about paperwork. That was the Army for you. The machine was more important than the man. I just nodded and told him I was sorry for the trouble. Eventually, they realized I was telling the truth. My records caught up with me, and Miller, my sergeant from the 2nd Infantry, sent a message confirming that I'd been at the airfield and had disappeared during the shelling. They couldn't charge me with anything, because technically, I hadn't deserted. I just improvised. They gave me a new uniform, took the German flight jacket away, and told me to get back to my unit. No parade, no thank you. Just a truck ride back to the front lines. When I got back to my company, the guys looked at me like I was a ghost. They'd heard rumors, of course. Stories grow fast in the infantry. Some heard I'd shot down 10 planes. Some heard I'd flown all the way to Berlin and back. I didn't correct them. I just sat down in the mud, opened a can of sea rations, and tried to forget the feeling of the wind. I didn't want to talk about it. It felt like if I talked about it too much, it would stop being real. It would just become another war story, and I wanted it to stay mine. But it stayed with me in other ways. For months, I couldn't look at the sky without flinching. Every time a plane flew over, I'd dive for cover, even if I knew it was one of ours. I'd hear that whistling sound in my sleep. I'd wake up reaching for a stick that wasn't there, my feet kicking at phantom rudder pedals. Martha used to say I was the only man she knew who could fly a plane in his sleep. I never told her what kind of plane it was. I didn't want her to think of me that way. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I think about that 109 often. It was a beautiful, terrible thing. It was built for one purpose, and I'd used it for another. I'd used a tool of destruction to save my own life. There's a strange irony in that. Sometimes, the things that are meant to kill us are the only things that can save us. I think that's true for a lot of things in life, not just war. I remember the last time I saw the crash site. We were moving back through the area a few weeks later, after the surrender. The plane was still there, but it had been stripped. The gauges were gone, the engine was missing, and the fabric had been torn away. It was just a skeleton of aluminum sitting in a field that was starting to turn green again. It looked small. It looked pathetic. It was hard to believe that it had once been a screaming, powerful machine that had held my life in its hands. I didn't stop. I just looked out the back of the Deuce and a Half and watched it disappear into the distance. 80 years. It's a long time to carry a secret. I've lived a whole life since then. I've seen my children grow up. I've seen my grandchildren have children of their own. I've seen the world change in ways that would have seemed like science fiction to that 19-year-old in the cockpit. But that 15-minute flight? It's as vivid as yesterday. I can still feel the vibration in my seat. I can still see the tracers. I can still see the silver wings of the Mustangs. I think about the Mustang pilots sometimes. I wonder if they're still around. I wonder if they ever think about the 109 they couldn't catch. Maybe they're sitting on a porch somewhere too, looking at their own pieces of aluminum. Maybe they're wondering what kind of pilot was in that plane. I hope they are. I hope they know that they were good. They were very, very good. And I hope they're glad they missed. I know I am. When I touch that piece of metal in my drawer, I don't feel like a hero. I don't feel like a brave soldier. I just feel like a survivor. I feel like a man who got a second chance, and I've tried to make the most of it. I've tried to live a life that was quiet and kind, to make up for all the noise and the anger of those years. I think I've done a decent job of it. Martha always said I was a good man. I hope she was right. I'm 92 now, and I know I don't have much time left. My heart is tired, and my breath is short. But I'm not afraid. I've already faced death in the sky, and I know what it looks like. It's not a monster. It's just another horizon, and I've always been good at finding horizons. I'm ready for the next one. I'm ready to see what's on the other side of the blue. I want to thank you for listening. It's not easy for an old man to open up like this. It takes a lot of energy to reach back into the shadows and pull out the truth, but I'm glad I did. It feels like I've finally completed the mission. The story is out there now. It's not just in a cigar box anymore. It's in the world. And as long as someone remembers it, A piece of that 19-year-old boy from Ohio will stay alive. I remember the morning after the crash. I was sitting on the bumper of a Jeep, drinking a cup of coffee that tasted like burnt rubber. I looked at my hands, and I noticed that the grease under my fingernails wouldn't come out. I scrubbed and scrubbed, but it was there to stay. It felt like a mark that said I had touched something I shouldn't have. I had crossed a line. I carried that grease for weeks, until the skin finally wore away and new skin took its place. But the mark on my soul, that never went away. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I think that's what war does to you. It doesn't just change what you do, it changes what you are. You can wash the dirt off, you can change the uniform, you can go back to the farm, but you never really leave the battlefield. It's always there, just behind your eyes. But you learn to live with it. You learn to make peace with the ghosts. I've made my peace. I've said my piece. And now, I'm going to go inside and have a glass of water. It's a beautiful evening, isn't it? The air is so still. It's the kind of evening that makes you glad to be alive. I hope you have an evening like this. I hope you find your own peace. And I hope you never have to fly a Messerschmitt unless you really, really want to. Goodbye, my friends. It's been an honor, truly. I'll see you when I see you. And until then, keep your eyes on the sky. There's a lot more up there than you think. There's history, and there's memory, and there's the endless, beautiful blue. Don't take it for granted. None of it. It's all a gift. Every single breath. I'm sitting here, and I'm looking at the sun setting over the cornfields. It reminds me of the light in Germany that day. That golden, late afternoon light that makes everything look like it's made of honey. It's a trick of the eye, of course. The world wasn't made of honey back then. It was made of blood and iron. But the light was the same. It's the one thing that never changes. No matter what we do to each other down here, the sun just keeps doing its job. There's something comforting in that. I remember the interrogation officer asked me if I'd do it again. I told him I didn't know. Looking back now, from the safety of my 92nd year, I can say that I wouldn't change a thing. Not because I enjoyed it, but because it made me who I am. It gave me a perspective on life that I couldn't have gotten any other way. It taught me the value of a single minute. It taught me that even in the middle of a war, there are moments of pure, unadulterated luck, and I'm grateful for every one of them. I think about the boy I was. I wish I could tell him to breathe. I wish I could tell him that the Mustangs would miss. I wish I could tell him that he'd live to see his great-grandchildren, but he wouldn't have believed me. He was too busy trying to keep the nose of that plane up. He was too busy being alive. And maybe that's the best way to be. Just focus on the moment. Just focus on the breath. I'm finished now. I've said all the words I have left. The cigar box is empty and my heart is full. I'm going to rest my eyes for a bit. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you for listening to an old man's memories. It's the best gift you could have given me. Take care of yourselves, and take care of the truth. It's the only thing we have that's real. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. I've been Henry Lawson, and this has been my story. God bless you all. God bless America. And God bless every soul that's ever dared to take flight. The shadows are long now, stretching across the porch. It's time to go in. Martha will have the tea ready. She always knew when I'd been thinking too much. She'd just look at me and smile, and the world would be okay again. I miss her. I miss her every single day, but I'll be seeing her soon. I'm sure of it. I'm just waiting for my clearance. I'm waiting for the tower to give me the green light, and when they do, I'll be ready. I'll be ready to fly one last time. Goodbye. I remember the way the cockpit of the 109 felt when I finally stepped out of it. It was like stepping out of a tomb. I felt this rush of cold air, and for the first time in 15 minutes, I could breathe without tasting oil. I remember looking back at the seat and seeing how small it was. It was just a little bucket of metal. It was hard to believe that such a small space could hold so much fear. But it did. It held enough fear to last me a lifetime. I'm glad I kept that piece of the wing. It's a reminder that even the most terrifying things can be broken. Even the most powerful machines can be brought down to earth. And even a boy who's lost in a war can find his way back. It's a good lesson to remember, especially these days. The world can feel like a big, scary machine sometimes, but we're the ones who are in the cockpit. We're the ones who have to make the choices. Don't let the machine make the choices for you. Stay in command. Stay human. And if you ever find yourself in a plane that isn't yours, flying toward a horizon you don't recognize, just remember me. Remember Henry Lawson, and just keep flying. You'll find a field eventually. You'll find a way home. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. This is my final word. The rest is just the wind in the corn, and that's exactly how I want it. Peace, at last. I'm closing the drawer now. The cigar box is shut. The story is told. I feel a weight lifted off my shoulders, a weight I've been carrying since 1945. It's a good feeling. It's the feeling of a job well done. I'm ready for whatever comes next. I'm ready for the quiet. I'm ready for the light. Good night, world. You've been a challenge, but you've been beautiful too. I wouldn't have missed it for anything. Not for all the money in the world, not for all the silver in the sky. I'm Henry Lawson, and I'm signing off. Over and out. The stars are beautiful tonight. They look like the tracers, but without the heat. Just cold, steady light. I think I'll stay out here just a few more minutes and watch them. They remind me that no matter what happens down here, there's always something bigger. There's always something that lasts. And that's a good thought to end on. A very good thought indeed. I remember the first time I saw a Mustang after the war. It was at an air show in the 50s. I was there with my son, and when that silver bird flew over, I felt my heart skip a beat. I wanted to run. I wanted to dive under the bleachers. But then I looked at my son's face, and he was smiling. He was pointing and laughing. He didn't see a predator. He saw a hero. And I realized then that the war was finally over. The machine had become a symbol of something good. And I was okay with that. I was more than okay with that. I'm really going now. My tea is getting cold. Take care, everyone. And thank you. Truly. If you're still listening to my story, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. It means these memories won't be forgotten. This is the last time I'll say it, but I mean it. Every word. Goodbye. I can still see the face of the pilot who tipped his wing. I've looked for him in the veteran magazines, in the archives, in the stories. I never found him, but in my mind, he's always there.